I'm Anna and welcome for another chapter. Today I'm ranking the nominee of the Mystery Thriller Goodreads Choice Award category, all 20 of them. So let's get to it. I've already read 13 of them before starting this video, so I'm going to rank those first, and then I'll be reading the 7 I'm missing and rank them depending on what I thought of them. This year is a bit special. It's the first year where I'm pretty solid about my top 3. Every year I'm a bit indecisive of the one I think should win, but this year I think that either one of my top 3 could win and I'll be happy about it. So let's start with my top 3. Number 1 has to go for Osman, The Impossible Fortune. This is the 5th book in the first The Murder Club series, and I'm so attached to the characters that I feel like I would not be honest with myself if I didn't put it in first place. I really enjoyed the 5th one. I felt like the 4th book in the series was so sad that I was a bit worried where we will be going into with this new book, and I feel like we're slowly getting back to the original vibe of the series, and I'm all for it. In this one, we're talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and the old gang is all back together. The rank between 2 and 3rd is pretty interchangeable for me. I like them equally, but I feel like I want to give the push to Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. This is her adult debut, and even though sometimes it still feels like a bit young adult, I really enjoyed the premise. It was very new, very refreshing, and even though the mystery is not the hardest mystery to crack, this blend of mystery and thriller is just working so well for me. We follow our main character that has been murdered, or more than this, there's been an attempt on her life, and the doctor gives her a week to die, and she plans to make this week count and discover who wanted to kill her. And the 3rd place, I feel like We Are All Guilty Here by Karin Slaughter really deserves it. I didn't read anything by Karin Slaughter before because she has long-running series and it felt like too much of a commitment. But this one is a brand new series called North Falls, and we follow a detective family and a case that happened 20 years ago, and then we're back to present and something similar happens again. I really enjoyed the dual timeline and the way the cases were presented because we really felt the connection and why it was so alive in the mind of the detective. I'm now curious about her other series, but it's so long that I don't know if I should take the plunge and try them. But the writing was so good that I feel like I should. So let me know if you've read like the Will Trent series, what you think of it. Now, before it gets trickier, I think that the 4th place is calling to me, and this is Vera Wong Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man. Vera is an acquired taste. I didn't like her that much in the 1st book of the series, but she is growing on me, and I didn't expect to like her so much in the 2nd book. If you're looking for mystery done by amateur sleuth and found family, this is the perfect book. Now it's getting a bit more complicated. Those books, for some, have been good but not great. I can think of the one I should put last. I think my worst book of the book I read now was The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. The Missing Half follows 2 sisters that have lost a sibling, and they come together to try and figure out the crime. The pace was so slow the whole book, and then it accelerates so much to the end to get to the ending and the reveals, and the reveals fell flat, like, because this is a 2-time reveal where the first one is like, oh, are you shocked? And they probably felt like, oh no, this is not shocking enough, and so they decided to do, oh, but you thought this was this, but actually that was that. And for me, this is like the worst kind of reveal gotcha moment that doesn't work at all for me. I was fine with the slow paced, but the reveal just killed it for me. I feel seeing this or here, the 5th place should go for The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. This is kind of a dual timeline where the daughter is going to ghostwrite her father biography, and the father was involved maybe in a crime years ago. So we have this double timeline where we try to figure out with the daughter what happened in her father's past, because he has dementia, so he is not reliable anymore. It was really well done. I'm not the biggest fan of author using amnesia or dementia for dragging along the plot, but this was well done and I enjoyed it. I felt like the pace was right, and often I am not enjoying dual timeline because I like one timeline more than the other, but this time I was enjoying both, and I was frustrated, but in a good way, that I wanted more. Like, why did we cut off here? I think it deserved the 5th place. Now we're getting to the book were fine, but they were all missing something. I think after the missing half, the one that I enjoyed the least was Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. So it will get 12th place for now. Beautiful Ugly was such a reheated plotline that I really felt like I read the book at least twice before. You have remote island and authors and weird shit happening with the locals. I feel I didn't care the whole book. I read this back in January, and at some point I had to put down the book and look if I already read it, but it was new release, so I didn't know why I had this feeling. Yeah, it was just disappointed. I am more of a hit and miss with Alice Feeney. I really enjoyed some of her twists, but this one didn't really work for me. 11th place, I feel I'm going to get The Crash by Freida McFadden. It was fun in a kind of put out your brain and just enjoy the ride, but sometimes when people get paranoid and author works too hard to make it look like should they or should they not be paranoid, I lost interest. This is a completely crazy, unrealistic story, but it was fun and it reads like in one sitting very well. Honestly, I didn't have a bad time reading it, but it's just not memorable. I can't believe that I still have 2 Freida McFadden books, and I'm probably not going to put them at the back. Let's go for 6th place. I think I'm going to give it to Famous Last Word by Gillian McAllister. Famous Last Word was a good book, but definitely not the best I've read by Gillian McAllister. We follow our main character that drop off her infant to the nursery and then gets a call because her husband is in a hostage situation. And the first half of the book, I think, we are following this situation. And then it gets resolved and we are pushing forward years from that. I completely lost interest about this. The reveals were nice, but the moment we did the time jump, I was like, I'm done with the story. Should we go back to the end of the line? I am pondering 10th place between Forget Me Not and Don't Let Him In. Don't Let Him In, I really didn't enjoy it. So I feel like Don't Let Him In should be 10th place. Don't Let Him In was about a woman that lost her husband, and suddenly a man that was friend with her husband but somewhat she never met comes into her life and suddenly start getting more and more into her life. Her children start to get suspicious. It was slow and the reveals happened very late, but it wasn't disguised so much that I trusted the guy at any point. It was like dragging, like I wanted to know why he was doing what he was doing, and the book wasn't giving me anything. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. It was slow paced. Really not the best Lisa Jewell. I prefer when this goes way more crazier than this one. Should I do 7, 9, and 8? I'm still debating who should get 8 and who should get 9. So let's go for the 7th place. 7th place is The Intruder by Freida McFadden. This is a dual timeline about a woman and a girl, and the woman is locked into a cabin in a storm when suddenly a teenage girl is found in her shed. she invites her in, and did she invite danger? I feel like people shouldn't go in it with more information than that. This was surprisingly good. This was not so out of bounds compared to some of Freida McFadden plot. The main character was actually likable. Yeah, by the end, it gets a bit crazy. I felt like this was worth it. This is definitely the best Freida McFadden book out of the 3 that were nominated for me. And now there were 2. I am very contemplating this because Forget Me Not was interesting, but also like you could see what was happening a mile away and you were screaming at the character to just figure it out. And The Tenant was typical crazy Freida kind of plot. That's my ranking. Let's go with The Tenant at 8. This is a domestic thriller where a guy decides to sub-rent a room in his house because he needs the money, and suddenly things start happening to him. He is pretty sure that the new roommate is the one responsible. This is the typical Freida plot twist. Don't think about it too much or it falls apart, but this was fun to read. And the main character is pretty unlikable, but so it gets satisfying what happens to him. And 9 is Forget Me Not by Stacy Willingham. Forget Me Not was twisted in a way that I didn't expect it to be. Actually, some of the reveals I didn't see coming, but a lot of them were written on the walls. It's about a woman whose sister disappeared 20 years ago, and she goes back where she disappeared after all this time. And instead of being a last goodbye, it starts being a search for the truth. I don't really know what to think of it. I've read it back in August, and this was not very memorable. I remember a bit of the plot twist, and I remember the main character being a bit too stupid to live at times. This was not a book that when I closed and I thought, oh, this was such a good story, it was a bit forgettable. No pun intended. And that's it for the books I've already read before starting this video. And now we are starting the books I hadn't previously read. Out of the 7 that I still have to read, I already read 2 of them, and I'm currently reading a 3rd one. So I will be updating this rating. Every time I finish one book. I read You Kill Me First by John Morse. This was in my TBR before it was nominated. Pretty sure this was the only one. It's about 3 women who lived in the same neighborhood, and they all have secrets. You have an ex-pop star, a banking girl turned yoga instructor, and someone making jewelry. And those 3 becomes friends. Or are they? This was very much neighborhood drama and mean girl energy for most of the book. And when we got to the reveals that switch up a bit of the story and we get why we are following those 3 women, I'm not sure it saved the whole book. I think this should be middle of the range in the ranking. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Intruder, that's for sure, but I feel like I appreciated it more than The Tenant. I will be putting it in 8th place. Then I read The Perfect Divorce, which is the sequel of The Perfect Marriage by Jeneva Rose. I read The Perfect Marriage before starting this video and got no hope of liking the sequel. I don't know why this sequel was done. The first book ended the story and we didn't need a follow-up because every single character in the first book is pretty much unlikable. So why would I want to know more about them in a second book is beyond me. So this time we follow Sarah 11 years later. She wants a divorce from her husband, and I cannot tell you more about it or I will spoil the first book. At some point, those characters are so unlikable and so unhinged that the husband becomes so paranoid that at this point I would not be surprised if it was all in your head. Also, the reason why I'm not sure why we did this book is because once you get the reveal in the book 1 and you know more about this character, you will never trust the character ever again. So you're pretty suspicious of this the whole book. Yeah, I don't know why it was made, but this was not needed. This was by far the worst I've read. I want to put it in 20 because I don't think anyone is going to beat that, but let's put it in 15 for now. The Goodreads Choice Awards have announced their winners, so we're gonna check who's winning the mystery thriller category and maybe look at the ranking. So let's check. So yeah, I'm not looking. This is on my other screen so I don't peek. And let's look at the winner. Oh, seriously? Not Quite Dead Yet by Ollie Jackson won the mystery thriller category. I'm very surprised. Alice Feeney and Freida McFadden had so much people reading their book this year, so Ollie Jackson winning it is amazing. This was my top 3, and I said before that if any of them let's won, see the full ranking, and that's the case. This was close. Yeah, 7,000 vote difference. So Not Quite Dead Yet. Oh, The Impossible Fortune made 3rd. Yeah, I'm very happy about this. And Freida made 2nd. I'm not surprised. I felt when I voted for the shortlist, the second part of the voting round, I realized that she had only 1 book out of the 3 survive, so it definitely should have pushed our chances. Alice Feeney 4th is funny because currently standing at the bottom of my ranking, and The Perfect Divorce being 5. Yeah. I don't know. This felt pretty bad to me, so Vera Wong is getting pretty high. Everyone is like, the first 3 are getting a lot of vote, but then it's really close to each other. They say Cosby and Dan Brown, The Secret of Secrets. I don't know yet. Maybe I will put them in the right ranking, but I have not read them yet at the time. So yeah, let's count. Where is the cutoff? 8, 9, 10. So this made top 10. Donna Lemien is very high. Yeah, we're all guilty here, just hanging on the shortlist at 10th. It deserved better. The Intruder was the least voted. I didn't predict that at all. I feel like in my prediction video, I already said that The Intruder might be the one making it into the top 10 because it was the most recent, so people still had it in mind. But I guess not a lot of people read it. Yeah, The Missing Half is way higher than what it deserves. Hurtwood and The Ghostwriter, I'm not surprised. It feels like the more literary book in the mystery thriller category either win it or gets very low vote. You Killed Me First. Does people that read John Mars prefer his sci-fi twist more than the mystery thriller? Forget Me Not is clearly where it deserved. And John Grisham, The Widow, I am not surprised. John Grisham used to be nominated in early Goodreads Choice Award, but it feels like the hype is not there anymore for this type of mystery thriller. Yeah, that's it for the reveals of the winners. Like, this is actually very good. I am very happy about this. And we are back. I finally read the last 5 books I needed to read to be able to finalize this ranking. I thought it was going to be easy, but it took way more time than anticipated. And you'll be able to see that it's because of 1 book. Let's go back to the current rating. I took the liberty to add the spaces for the last 5 books I needed to read after I read them. Like you can see, the top 5 and the bottom 2 have not changed, so it's not drastic. And I found 2 books that entered the top 10. So I can already say that this little experiment was a win for sure. I'm not keeping the suspense any longer, and let's start with 6th place, and it is Hurtwood by Amity Gage. Hurtwood is the story of the disappearance of a nurse that is hiking the Appalachian Trail, and they realize she's missing because she's supposed to meet her husband at some checkpoint and she's not there. And we follow all kind of characters that are linked to this story. I really enjoyed the process of searching someone that had disappeared into nature. I didn't like as much the character exploration, and at some point some of the characters I was perplexed why they were having so much screen time. I was surprised to like this much a more literary read, but I really did enjoy my reading experience, and I could recommend this book to a very large amount of people. Even though if you don't like literary, this could still be interesting, especially if you like nature and hiking and the philosophy behind it. And now for the last book in the top 10, I've decided to give it to Gone Before Goodbye by Reese Witherspoon and Alan Coben. I didn't know what I was getting into when I started this book. This is Reese Witherspoon's first book, and like the Millions by Alan Coben. This is a fast-paced thriller where we follow our main character is a doctor, and because events in her life, she lost her medical license, and she is contacted by rich people across the world to do medical act on them, and slowly she realized that maybe her husband's death is not as simple as she thought it was. To be very honest, I am very excited to see this being made into a movie because I think this is the goal here. Reese Witherspoon really created her book club to see what books were popular to be able to adapt them and have the right audience. And I think that her writing something is really keeping that direction. The final idea is still to make it a movie, I think. And at times you could really feel it, the scenes and how they flow. It really feels like a movie. It's not higher because I don't particularly care about rich people doing whatever, and the kind of spy-ish thriller is not my cup of tea. But this was really readable. I read this like in almost one sitting, and I had a good time. This will not be memorable in a few years' time, but while I was reading it, I was very happy. Now at 14th, I have to say this was a bit of a disappointment. This was my first book by the author, and I thought I was going to like it. And this is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. I didn't like this book because it felt too slow for a thriller and not enough mystery to be qualified as a mystery. Like, this is not mystery at all. The little mystery part is really a thin thread that is spaced out too much in the book that you don't care about it at all. And the thriller part, I was never thrilled, I was never scared. At some point I was just like, this is what you deserve. This is about money and gangs, and this is just not something that interests me to see in the point of view that is explored here. Also, can we stop with characters that are the reason all of this is happening and that can deal with it themselves, so they involve the other characters, and then they complain about how the main character is acting or trying to resolve the situation, because I am so tired of this. Like, deal with it yourself, and if you can't, don't complain that people are helping you. At 16, I've decided to put The Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown. I've read my share of Robert Langdon book. I've read Inferno, I've read The Da Vinci Code, I've read Angels and Demons. So I'm pretty well versed in the kind of thriller Dan Brown does with the Robert Langdon series. I was expecting this, especially with The Secret of Secrets, and I was so disappointed by it. First, this is a break. This is almost 700 pages, 22 hours of audiobook. It was the reason this video kept being pushed back and back and back, because it would take me so much time to go through. I am no stranger to big book and big audiobook, and usually I can sell through them no problem, but this one was dragging so much. The setting great. We are now in Prague. Describe the city is, as always, amazing. Dan Brown really is good at describing European cities very well. But what I liked in the Robert Langdon series, that Dan Brown uses symbolism in art to make it a plot in his story that is believable historically. He uses little shadow in his story that makes it plausible. Like, it's not true, but it's true enough, it's plausible enough that you are into it. What Dan Brown doesn't do well is medical stuff. And here, with all the neuroscience, I was so lost and I didn't have any interest in it. The little part about the heart, I was into it, but the rest, no. And that's a shame because this is such a long book. And clearly the characters are feeling urgency, but this was so long and nothing was happening between scenes that I felt like I was bored. And lastly, with no suspense at all, at 18, I've put John Grisham, The Widow. I was already a bit worried with us starting it because John Grisham has not been nominated in years in Goodreads Choice Awards. He is not what people are thinking of mystery thriller wise when they think about the Goodreads sphere of reading. He is still very popular, there is no doubt about it, but in the Goodreads mainstream, what is popular mystery thriller, John Grisham isn't. And here I had some hope because The Widow is described as his first whodunit. Either his publishers is doing him dirty or he doesn't know what a whodunit is, because this was not a whodunit. So we follow a loser attorney when suddenly an old lady comes to his office and wants to make a new will. She's old, she has money, and she has no family. Of course, the attorney is now thinking that he can make bank doing this will, and so that's the start of their working relationship. For starters, nothing happens in this book before the 40% mark. There was so much dining experience in that book that write a cookbook. Like, what was the point of the first 40%? Like, 20% we had a good grasp on what the character motives were, who they were. We didn't need 40% of the book to exposition. Then it happens, the murder. And that's where somewhere the whodunit part is not clear. We are introduced to a lot of suspects, to some suspects in this book. And we explore if they could have done it or not. I'm going to spoil it a bit. I'm not going to, it's spoiler light, but if you want to read this book, just skip ahead a bit. We don't know the killer. The killer is not introduced before the 80 to 90% mark. This is not a whodunit. No one can predict that an outsider is doing the crime because we don't know that it is a possibility. And the reason and the killer is so stupid in the realm of this story that I really closed this book and were, why did I read that? This was a loss of time. There is no point. The ending is just killing the little interest the book had before the reveal. This is not at the last place because the missing half is guilty of doing something similar and the perfect divorce is just plain bad. But honestly, those three are really, really at the bottom. Like, there is a big gap between Beautiful Ugly and This Was Bad and the last three. Finally, I thought I would do a comparison of my ranking and the Goodreads Choice Awards ranking. As you can see, most of the book I voted in the top 10 are ranked lower in the Goodreads Choice Award, and most of the book that I placed in the bottom 10 are ranked higher. I don't know what this says about me, but I'm pretty satisfied with my ranking. I stand by it. I think some of this book that have crazy high rating really makes me worried about the state of the mystery thriller. But I have to say, I'm very satisfied of my top 3. Like, even my top 4 is very solid, and they did great in the Goodreads Choice Awards too. So that's a win, I guess. That's it for me. I finally ranked the 20 nominee of the Mystery Thriller Goodreads Choice Awards 2025. I hope that this video will help you if you want to try some of them. And if you have tried some of them, what did you think of them? Let me know what was your favorite and your least favorite of this list. And maybe if you think I've been harsh to one of those authors that I ranked lowly, recommend me some books that I might be interested in. If you want to keep me talking about books, don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next one.